Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 5 of Teach Play Disc Golf. I'm your host, Antonio, and I am so happy to be back with you here today. I know it's been a little while, and I'm sorry about that. I'll give some explanation here in just a little bit, but I just wanted to say I am so happy to be back. I'm super excited for today's episode. It's going to be a fairly short episode, as you've either seen or heard already, depending how you're listening to episode 5. I don't have a guest with me today, and I just wanted to jump on and talk to you guys for a little bit, give you some updates, and and kind of some plans for the future that I'm really excited about. So let's go ahead and let me share the outline for the show, and we'll get right into it. So first things first, I'm going to give some updates, just kind of talking about where I've been, what's going on, and what I'm looking forward to in the future. Just mainly, around disc golf, Gladiator disc golf, Teach Play disc golf, those kinds of things. They're not going anywhere, but I have been absent for a couple weeks, several weeks, especially for the podcast. So just wanted to touch on that and kind of explain my absence a little with that. So it was unplanned, I'll say that much. After that, we're going to talk about disc golf skill, of course. Here at Teach Play Disc Golf, I'm always wanting to give you guys some tips to improve your disc golf game. So we're going to talk about that. And that will essentially be the show. That's a word I've been using a lot recently, essentially. So that will be the show. Just a fairly short episode, not only because I'm solo today, but just wanted to jump on, kind of break the silence that's been there for a little while, and just talk about some things. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alrighty, so there have been several weeks have passed, I should say, since the last episode. I didn't actually look. Let me pull it up while I'm thinking about it. It's been a little while since the last episode came out. Let's see, May 17th, so just over a month, which is never my intention, never my plan, not something that I was wanting to do. In the meantime, I have put out some tutorial videos on my YouTube channel, and so if you are unaware, Teach Play Disc Golf is my podcast, but Gladiator Disc Golf is my YouTube channel. You can go ahead and check out some of the videos I have there. I've been putting videos on there for nearly 5 years, so there's a lot of content there for you to improve your game and just get better at disc golf. But Teach Play Disc Golf is in its second year, and have really enjoyed it and loved it. One of the things that I tried doing this year was really trying to have guests on every episode, because I wanted to have that communication. I wanted to have that conversation and really get some other people on here to share their knowledge and skills that they excel at, and really talk to them. So I haven't done it as much as I've wanted to, truth be told. I was wanting to do 2 episodes a month. Life has been pretty busy and stressful, honestly, this year. 2024 has been a lot. Specifically since episode 4 came out. This is episode 5. Since episode 4 came out, there were a few doctor appointments before then, and there have been a few doctor appointments since then and around that time. May was just a very busy month. A lot of doctor visits and that kind of thing. Everything is okay now, but some things were a little nerve-wracking for my wife and I. So everything is okay now. Things have been, things were happening, but everything is okay. I know I've said that a lot. I promise they are. I'm not just trying to make myself believe it, but everything is good. And that was really the biggest reason why I haven't been putting out content. Just, it was not top of mind. It wasn't my focus. It wasn't my priority. There were some other things going on with those health concerns. And then we had family in town, and then my wife and I were traveling. And so there wasn't a convenient time to jump on and record a podcast, especially a podcast with a guest, because I always want to try to be respectful of my guest's time, and, a little behind the scenes, pulling back the curtain a little bit for you guys. When I have a guest on, obviously you try to reach out to them at least a week in advance, and if not a couple weeks in advance, and schedule time, send the Riverside link so that they can join the studio. I also give them a look into the show notes like beforehand, typically send them the day before. That way, if they have any changes or whatever, or any requests, things, something they want to talk about or whatever it is, I can throw that in there. Most times, I'm not really having to make a lot of changes, but by all accounts, anytime I've had a guest on and I've shared the script, which has pretty much been every single time, I can't think of a time I haven't done that. They've always been really appreciative of it. So it's something I like to do. And because that is sort of my process for the podcast, it's not always easy to know that like that's the effort that I have to put into it and that I want to put into, because there's a standard that I want to hold myself to and hold this show to, that I know if I can't put that effort in, I don't just want to have somebody take 30 to 60, maybe even 90 minutes of their time to talk disc golf and all that, and I'm not prepared, because I just think that would be really disrespectful of their time. And so that's just been one of the other things is like, hey, if I am not making the time to prepare for it, I don't want to waste somebody else's time in joining me on the show and talking to me. So that's kind of been, that's a little bit like behind the curtain of what goes into this for me and why there's been a little bit of silence and not happening nearly as much. But at the same time, I've been creating more tutorial videos and those kinds of things on my YouTube channel. And that obviously takes time, more time, honestly, than the podcast, because there's the planning aspect, there's the recording aspect, and there's the editing and producing and uploading and all those things. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. It just takes time. That's all. So that's kind of what's been going on for the last several weeks, about the last month and a half, some health concerns, family in town, then we were traveling. And also, I kind of gave behind the scenes a little bit. I didn't have any guests lined up either. And so that was one of the things where life was getting busy and I didn't have any guests lined up, and I didn't want to just slap something together and waste my time, waste everybody else's time, like the guest. But I also didn't want to waste your time as the listener, because I appreciate when you guys tune in and listen and rate the show and all those kinds of things. And I want to make sure that I'm putting out something good that you're going to enjoy, that you want to come back for. So sorry about that. And I appreciate your patience. I'm very excited to be back. I will say that health is good. I am traveling this month in July, but I already have some very exciting guests lined up. We're talking guests, brand new guests, never been on the show. Haven't really talked much about them. I've mentioned them periodically. Like one was a couple of years ago that I mentioned, and then not on the show, but I think just on Gladiator Disc Golf, I've either mentioned him on my Instagram or on my YouTube. Another one is somebody, another disc golf coach that I have mentioned a few times on the podcast. So I'm very, very excited to have these two guests on the show over the next couple of weeks. So definitely make sure you're tuning in. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and follow to my channel and to the show, so that way you'll see these new episodes when they come back. Speaking of which, every time I have a guest, most times I have a guest, like 90% of the time, I do something called a class in session. And basically what that is it's premium disc golf coaching and tips that are behind, that you have to pay for, that you have to be a subscriber for, that you have to be a member on YouTube for. And it's just a few dollars a month, and you get access to all that content. And on Spotify and Apple, or Spotify, I should say, when you're a subscriber or a member on Spotify, you not only get access to the class in session, which is additional coaching and teaching for you guys, you also get the ad-free version of the full-length episode. So there's the class in session, then there's the main show. And when you pay and subscribe, you get access to both on YouTube and on Spotify. Apple's a little weird because Apple doesn't have like its own platform where you necessarily like upload through them. So everything's uploaded through Spotify, so the memberships and stuff are through Spotify. But if that is something that is interesting to you, if you want some additional coaching, if you want to hear some feedback and just some good, fun conversation as well, like those class and sessions last anywhere from about 15 to 30, 35 minutes, depending on the guest and depending on what we're talking about. And that information is not shared on the main show. So it is premium exclusive content specifically for that. So if that's interesting to you, go ahead and check that out. You get extra coaching and content, and you support me and keep this show running. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get into the disc golf skill. I'm so excited for this. All right, let's go ahead. Let's get right into it. So the disc golf skill, I was sitting preparing for the show and just thinking, what is something that I would want to talk about, knowing that I'm going to kind of be solo, not really going to be talking to anybody else and getting their input on those kinds of things. The last episode I had, I talked to Tanner a little bit about playing in a tournament. And I sort of alluded to some of these things. We talked about my recent tournament. I'm not necessarily going to dive into those details again. If you want to listen to that, check out episode 4 with Tanner McCartney. But I do want to talk about this challenge of going from casual play to playing in a tournament and transitioning from one to the other, and sort of what we need to do or what we can do to improve our tournament performance, especially when we feel like during our casual rounds, we're playing really well, things are clicking, we're comfortable, we're not stressed, we're not nervous. How do we take that comfort level and move it into, well, tournament play? So I have really four tips. One's not written down here, so let me add that real quick. So 4 tips on how to improve going from a casual round to a tournament round. The first thing, and this is something that's probably going to make people the most uncomfortable. It's really going to, I think, challenge a lot of people because it's going to take some additional time and focus, but record your throws during a scoring round. We hear it all the time on coverage, whether it's Jomez, MDG Media with the European coverage, Gatekeeper, GK Pro, Central Coast when they were doing stuff, even Disc Golf Pro Tour coverage. When somebody isn't normally on coverage, meaning they don't have the cameras on them, they don't have as big of a crowd following them, there are nerves because there's extra attention. Now, when you're playing your casual round, it's kind of hard to simulate extra attention. But one of the things that I think can help simulate it a little bit is recording yourself when you throw and doing it for nearly every throw. You may not necessarily need to record your putt unless you feel like, hey, this is a 25-footer and I really need to work on this. For some reason, psychologically, seeing a camera makes us think about how we look and how we perform. Even if we know as we're recording it, that video, that coverage, so to speak, isn't going to go anywhere, we can feel like, hey, this is making me feel nervous. This is making me feel pressure. And the camera can be behind you. It can be to the side of you. It can be in front of you. And sort of knowing that your attempt is being recorded adds an additional layer of pressure. Now, not only does it simulate some of the pressure, because I'll be honest, as somebody who's been recording himself for 5 years now, it's not exactly the same, but there is pressure. And if you're not used to recording yourself ever, you're definitely going to feel that pressure. So especially for those of you who don't do this, if you do it on a scoring round and you're tracking your score accurately and you are recording every single throw, you are going to start to feel that. Now, the other thing with this is that it forces you to play slow, because if you're recording your throw, you have to have a tripod and your phone or camera. I recommend your phone because you want it to be quick and easy, that you could just click play and have the camera auto adjust. And honestly, like, you'll be able to find more convenient tripods for a smartphone than you would for like a DSLR or a mirrorless camera or something like that. It would be better for you to have something a little bit sturdier, since those can be really, really expensive and not as easy to replace as a phone. But what's going to happen when you're recording is that you have to set the camera up. And obviously, if you're recording yourself, you might as well try to get good footage as well. So you're going to have additional distractions, which is the same thing you're going to have in a tournament, whether it's somebody on your card, and not necessarily bad distractions like somebody on your card is being a jerk or anything like that, but just the fact that you now have to consider, oh, I'm playing with 3 or 4 other people. Oh, they have a caddy with them. Oh, they have their friends and family tagging along with them. So there could be multiple people walking around with this card, and you have to manage those distractions. Having a camera is going to help you do that. Not only does it work the pressure that you're feeling internally, but it forces you to slow down. So you say, okay, let me set this shot up. I know I'm recording. Oh, I threw my shot. I need to watch it. Oh, I need to turn around, pick up my bag, grab the camera, go and set up the next shot, make sure I have a good angle. And then, it doesn't hurt to also look at your form too, but it just starts to sort of slow you down and really make you start thinking about everything that you're doing. And you feel those distractions coming into play. So one of the things that you're going to have to learn is how to turn your focus on when you've been distracted. Because the thing is, and this is something I've been working on, and I think we're always going to constantly be working on this, is it's not that it's impossible, but I think that it's better to learn when to focus on your shot and your strategy and those things, and when to dial back the intensity and the focus. Because if you are intense for 3 to 4 hours and focus on everything for 3 to 4 hours, you're going to be mentally exhausted. And the mental exhaustion, more than the physical exhaustion, is where you're going to start making mistakes. You're going to force a shot. You're going to do something that you otherwise wouldn't do if you had the mental endurance that you need. And now you can build up that mental endurance, or you can learn sort of how to manage your focus and your attention, knowing that the longer the round is, the weather that's happening and all these other things, if you can learn to sort of, okay, I threw, and let's say you threw the furthest on the card, you have 3 other people that at least have to throw in front of you, depending on if they hit a tree, obstacles, whatever it is. So it could be anywhere from another minute before you throw to up to 3 or 4 minutes before you throw. And if you're intently focused on that next throw, it's just going to drive you crazy after a little while. It's just going to be so hard to stay focused. And then if you add extreme heat, extreme cold, if you add rainy weather, windy weather, there are all these things that are just going to wear you out. And so using a camera can actually help simulate some of those distractions. Obviously, a camera is not as big of a distraction as pouring rain, like I've played in several tournaments recently, but learning how to dial that focus back and forth is super helpful, because you go to set up the shot, you know what you're thinking about? You're thinking about setting up the tripod and the camera. And then all of a sudden you step up to your lie and you say, oh, I need to now think about my shot. So you were distracted and you have to refocus back on the task at hand. And just doing this over and over is super helpful. Now, obviously doing it before a tournament is great, but the more you do this just as you practice in your practice regimen, the better you're going to get at it. And not only that, you should see your form improve. You should see your gameplay improve, because you're going to feel a lot more confident. And eventually, for some people faster than others, eventually you can reach a point where you're not even thinking about it. Yes, you're still focusing, okay, got to set up the camera. But when it comes time to throw, you're not worried so much about that camera behind you or that camera in front of you or to the side. Because yeah, there's a camera there. You've learned to sort of close out those distractions, which is super, super helpful, especially come tournament time, when we need to know how to do those things. We need to know how to block those distractions out. But you can't know how to block those distractions out, especially those bigger distractions, if you haven't practiced blocking out the smaller distractions. So that is all within that first tip on how to improve going from casual play to tournament play. Record your throws during a scoring round. There's a lot in there, a lot of different levels and layers, so to speak, to the benefits of recording yourself. The next thing, and this is mainly for somebody, if you do a lot of solo rounds like I do, or if you only play with one person, which is honestly the most I ever play with is one other person. Occasionally I'll play with multiple people, 2 or 3, but that doesn't happen very often. What ends up happening is I play solo rounds. So if you're like me, or you only play with one other person on a regular basis, to get used to tournament play and tournament style, play with multiple people and play competitively. Now you can do this easily by, being a local active member in your local league and community, disc golf community. But something else that you can do is it's technically a sanctioned competitive round, but you could go to like flex starts. And if you're at a course and there's a couple people there, ask if you could join their card or ask them to join your card, depending how many you have. And that also helps you kind of learn how to play with strangers and handling that sort of new pressure, because it's like, if you've never played with them before, they don't actually know what you're capable of. They don't actually know what you're good at or bad at. They're only going to know how you perform. And so we tend to want to be like, oh, I gotta play well. I almost feel like I gotta show off in front of this person. And that can really distract you from your goal, which is to play good, consistent golf, play within your skill set. So playing with multiple people is going to also teach you how to slow down, because a lot of times, especially as a consistent solo round player, it is really easy to get that heart rate and cardio level up, because you're just walking, you set your stuff down, you figure out the shot, you go and throw the shot, you pick the stuff up, you go to the next lie or to the putt, whatever it is, and you're just kind of moving. You're going along, you're hustling and bustling. The moment you add 1, 2, 3 people, maybe even 4 if you're playing with a group of 5, like the moment you start adding all those people, all those other people have to throw too. And so now all of a sudden you throw your shot and you have to wait and you have to sit, especially in that when you have that bad shot, you have to sit in the fact that you just threw a bad shot. Now, if you're first up, you don't have to sit in it very long, but you're probably going to have a tough shot ahead of you. So depending on, no matter your shot, at some point you're going to have to sit and wait. You're not always going to be next. And so that just sort of teaches you patience. It sort of teaches you how to exist being on a card with other people and being respectful. You can't just go walking in front of people. And especially if you're going to a course a couple days or a few weeks before your tournament there, you may find that other people are like, oh yeah, I'm playing that event too. Like, do we want to play together? Especially if you find out you're in the same division or you're in the same pool, or if no matter the pool or division, you're all playing the same layout, like you guys could kind of play together, and kind of gives you that competitive element. But playing with multiple people is going to be super helpful. And if you don't do that right now, or you don't do it enough, that's going to be one of the best things that you can do to help you simulate tournament play. And then not just playing like with your group of friends and buddies, but playing with people you don't normally play with, playing with people you don't know, because that's essentially what a tournament is. Unless you've just played so many tournaments in your area where all the same people keep showing up, you're probably not going to know everybody. So the more you can practice playing with people you don't know, the less pressure you'll feel come tournament day. So that was number 2. The first one, remember, record your throws during a scoring round. Number 2, play with multiple people and play competitively. Number 3, and this kind of ties in with what we just discussed, so I won't have to spend too much time with it. Slow down your pace of play. Now, obviously, if you're playing with other people, that's going to slow your pace of play down. But specifically, if you're playing by yourself or with one other person, slow down. You may not realize you're moving quick, but when you start actively thinking about, hey, I need to slow down, I need to conserve energy, I need to take my time. Let me not just go into muscle memory. Let me not just go into, autopilot. And I've played this course so many times, so I know exactly what I'm going to do. Like, no, actually stop for a second and think about what you're going to do, how you're going to execute it. Slow down your pace of play. And that's going to really allow you to sort of exist in the moment a lot better. It's going to help you improve your play because you're not overexerting energy walking to the next lie. And it's just going to help you adapt to tournament style disc golf a lot better, because you're going to be used to moving a little bit slower. Whereas if you were just quick and going all the time, all of a sudden you try to go play a tournament or a flex start or a league round, and you're like an Energizer bunny. You're kind of like, okay, I'm ready to throw, and you can't, because you're having to wait for other people. So it's a great way to sort of get used to what it's like playing with other people. So force yourself to slow down your pace of play. And then the fourth and final tip that I want to leave you guys with is one that you hear a lot, and truthfully, you may not like it. You may not want to hear it, but it's definitely something that I've experienced. Speaking of experience, the fourth tip is experience. You're only going to get better at tournament play the more tournaments you play. If you play one or two a year, you're probably never going to get over those nerves if you really care about how you perform. If you're just playing a tournament because it's fun, it had a good players pack, it's the big local A tier in your town or a nearby city, and you're just there to have fun, you may never really feel the nerves because it's just like, I'm just here to chill and play some disc golf and do the best I can kind of thing, get a cool players pack, whatever it is. But if you're like, no, I want to improve, I want to get better, I want to, be a top player in my area, I want to be sponsored eventually, like true sponsorships, disc golf company paying you to throw their stuff, you have to get experience. You have to play more. And I know it's not always easy with time and money to play on the weekends and that kind of thing, but look for flex starts. Add experience with league rounds where every week you're putting money in. And casual round, this is something me and some of my friends have done. You could do a skins match. You could also just put a couple bucks down on a round. We hear about this all the time. And it sort of gives some stakes to it that is not going to be the same as tournament. But yeah, I am not endorsing gambling or anything like that. But if you can't actually play in more tournaments, but you have a group of friends that play all the time, it can be like, hey, winner, like the lowest score gets their lunch paid for by the person with the highest score, meaning I shot -6, so I'm in first place and I get a free lunch, and the person in fourth place shot a +6, well, they're going to pay for my lunch. Something along those lines. Even like if you're hanging out with a group of friends, you could easily do something like that. But the idea mainly is to play more tournaments. I kind of got on a sidetrack there. But the best way to get better at tournament play is to play more tournaments. Now, that can be the Saturday rounds or Saturday tournaments with 2 a day. You play 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. It could be a 2-day round, Saturday, Sunday, a 3-day round or a 3-day tournament, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It could be flex starts, whatever it is. Flex starts are great, especially if you don't have time to play and commit 12 to 14 hours, for a single day event. If you're doing a multi-day event, it's a little bit, you still have to now commit a full weekend, but it's less time each day given when your tee time is and how you perform and your confidence level and that kind of thing. But like a flex start, you could go to work and then on a Friday after work, or if you work on Saturdays, or just even the Saturday flex, like you could go whenever you want, have a group of friends come meet you for a card, those kinds of things. Just kind of get more of that experience and make sure whatever you're playing is a sanction round, because that's really going to matter too. You want to sort of have an idea of how you're playing based on PDGA ratings. Getting that experience, improving your rating, and all that time and effort you're playing, you're seeing the fruits of your labor. Like obviously, yes, casual rounds and friendly rounds without sanctioned ratings is fine. But if you're trying to get better at tournaments, you obviously want to improve your rating. You're only going to improve your rating. One of the big ways is by playing more rated rounds, because that's when the pressure is on. That's when every stroke literally counts. That's when you don't get a mulligan. That's when you don't throw 2 off the top to start your round and those kinds of things. So definitely work on getting more experience. There are a lot of different ways that you can do that. I shared some of them. I definitely recommend starting with playing more tournaments, but if that's not an option for you, because maybe there's not a lot in the area or you just don't have time to play that, but you want to get comfortable so that the 1 or 2 or 3 tournaments that you do play in a year, you feel comfortable with, start making, little wagers maybe, or like little things where it's like, hey, me and my buddy are playing, I'll buy your lunch if you beat me, or you buy my lunch if I beat you, or something along those lines. And it doesn't even actually have to be something that you fulfill if it's an agreement. If it's just more like, hey, we're doing this to kind of add pressure, for some people that'll work, not actually having to fulfill on the back end, but just like, thinking about like, I would get free lunch if I made this putt on hole 18. That can kind of, for some people, be enough. So basically the 4 things that I'm recommending as of right now to transition from casual play to tournament play, to improve your game, to get more comfortable in tournaments. Number 1, record your throws during a scoring round. That's number 1 for a reason. If you take nothing else from this episode, do that. Number 2, play with multiple people and play competitively. A fun casual round where you're throwing 3 shots off every hole and you play the best one is not going to get you better for tournament play. You have to play competitively with multiple people where every shot counts. Number 3, slow down your pace of play. Take the time and effort to turn your round that maybe normally takes an hour 15, turn it into an hour and a half, an hour 45. Slow down how fast you're walking, slow down how quick your decision making is, because you want to be able to take it in and really get comfortable playing at a slower rate. And then number 4 is get more experience. That would honestly be like the second best tip on this list. First one being play with the camera, but the second one, get more experience in tournament rounds, in sanctioned rounds. It's not obviously the best thing to hear, because it means you have to pay money and make the effort to play more tournaments. But I mean, think about it like this. If I said, if you want to get better at disc golf, you have to play more disc golf. And you said, but I don't want to do that. I just want to go out the once a month that I get to play and play better. Like, that wouldn't make sense. It's like, well, if you're not actively doing it, if you don't do something regularly, pick anything in life. If you don't do it regularly, you're never going to improve at the rate that you want to improve. So if you want to get better at tournaments, you have to put the effort in and play more tournaments. So that's that. If you guys need help with any of these skills, whether it's the mental side of it, figuring out a schedule that works for you, or there's a specific shot in your game that you want to improve, from past tournaments that you've played, like, I really need to dial in my forehand. How do I work on my C1X putting confidence? Whatever it might be. If you need help with that, go ahead and DM me on Instagram or message me on Discord, and you can schedule a free coaching call. Your first session will be absolutely free. We'll talk for 30 minutes. We'll take notes. We'll talk about everything that you want to work on. We'll dissect a video that you send me. We'll break it down. We'll analyze it together. And I'll leave you with some observations and some drills that you can do to improve your game. And that's the first one, totally free. You may take that and we never talk again. Or you may say, I want more of this. And then we can talk a little bit more about that. But the first session, absolutely free. So if you're interested in that, DM me on Instagram or on Discord if you have a Discord account. And if you didn't know that I have a Discord server, link will be in the description no matter where you're listening. So that is all that I have for you today, everybody. I really enjoyed being back. It's a little bit late here, so maybe I sounded a little tired, a little more reserved, but truly excited to be back. And I can't wait for the future episodes with some of the guests that I have, first-time guests coming on the show. Super, super excited about that. So that's all for this week. For this next couple of weeks, I'll be working with some people and getting new episodes published and ready. So I'm excited for that. So until next time, almost forgot how I normally close. Make sure that you guys go out this week and teach somebody how to play. Maybe that's sharing this podcast with them, sharing my YouTube channel with them, teaching them some things that you know from your own experience. And if they're a first-time player, just taking them out to the course. Make sure you teach someone this week. Share our mutual love of disc golf with somebody else. Make sure that you yourself also get out and play. Disc golf is great way to relieve stress, great way to just enjoy being outside and spending time with family and friends. So make sure you play disc golf this week. And that's basically it, everybody. Hope you have a good one. Have a great round.